I'm Joe.
And I'm Dee.
And together we're Jody. Well, today we're going to talk about something that is, can be a hot topic, can be kind of a button pusher, and that is...
in-laws.
Okay.
And so, everybody has different points about how to deal with their in-laws. So we're going to answer 3 different questions to help us talk about this topic even more. So the very first question is, how much input should your in-laws have in your marriage?
And, well, that answer is different for every couple. There are some generalities that can apply, I believe. One thing that I believe in is, we know you come from a very, 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 extremely, very, very, very...
Okay, we got it.
Close-knit type family.
Uh-huh.
And so that was, a lot of... If I had to listen to other people, they were like, this and that and this and that, and you're going to have trouble here and trouble there. But I can't say that your family is awesome and amazing. I'm glad I married into this family. But when it comes to how much input they should have, that's going to look different for every couple. Mm-hmm. But one general rule that I try to keep in mind is you want to be respectful. And what I mean by that is your in-laws should not, your family or my family, like my mother or your mother and father, they shouldn't have precedence over the decisions we make in our relationship. Mm-hmm. Like say for instance, I am, used to going to my parents for advice, and asking them about this or that. I now have to realize that, you're my closest family member now. So this is the household that we're trying to build. So, it can be different from every person. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I definitely think that your parents have value for the most part. They're older, so they have experience. They can more than likely help you along the way with certain things. However, there has to be boundaries on that. Your parents do not control your household. Well, I don't think that they should control your household. And also, too, it depends upon your culture. There are some cultures in which that's perfectly fine because that's their culture. But here in America, the United States, and probably even in England, too, depending upon, again, what culture you are part of, no, parents, they can offer, to me, they're advisors, but they're not the ultimate person. The ultimate person you should consult with is your spouse. And again, I know everyone has different religious beliefs, but the Bible does say that a man will leave his parents' household, he'll join with his wife. So I really think that your parents can offer you suggestions, they can give you advice, and it can be very helpful. But at the same time, they're not the they're not the ultimate decision maker. Yeah. That's ultimately up to you and your spouse.
And sometimes there can be some well-meaning family members, and sometimes you have to help them set the boundaries. You may not be used to telling your parents, no, I'm not gonna take your advice on this right now. I'm gonna listen to my husband or my wife or whatever the case may be. And that may just come down to a simple conversation. Listen, I love you to death, but this is my household and I'm trying to build it up. And, we're trying to do it together. So
exactly. But fortunately, I have to say, I think I'm pretty fortunate because my mother-in-law is not really
pushy,
intrusive like that.
Yeah, true. And I can say the same about your mom. I even got her a card and told her that. I said, I appreciate, you giving us our space, So, what's another point that you have?
So, the next question is, how much time should you spend with your in-laws?
Well, again, as we said before, and that's a good point that you brought out earlier about culture. It depends on culture, but so of course we can only speak to our culture. But and you don't want your in-laws, your family to feel like you've abandoned them
Yeah,
because you've
definitely
gotten
not.
married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if y'all are close like that and visits are often and normal, you want to keep it that way. You know,
Definitely.
but to a lesser degree, so much like you know, like for instance, a couple of weeks ago you suggested we just need to spend some time this weekend by ourselves because we're always at our friend's house. We're always here. We're always at the in-laws or somebody's house visiting somebody. So you must have alone time where you just the two of you and your in-laws. Most I can say my in-laws and your in-laws. You know they respect that. You know?
Definitely.
So spending quality time is still important, especially with the grandparents. You know what I mean? That's especially important. They view the grandchildren as special and important, and then on down the line the great grands. You know, so you got to spend time with them. But you don't want to. You got to be balanced. You know, you don't want to make them feel like they've been cast out in favor of your brand new shiny spouse. At the same time, you don't want your spouse to feel like, my goodness, I married this person, but when am I ever going to see them? You know? So,
that's true. I think it's definitely a balance, and that's something that you and your spouse have to talk about. Sometimes you can even talk about it before you get married.
Yeah. You bet.
We did talk about it before we got married to an extent, and then you know sometimes you might have to revisit that and you know switch things up, but that's something that you guys should agree on together. And I agree, it should be balanced. You definitely want to spend time with them, especially if you're close to your family, but you also don't want to necessarily do the same amount of time you spent with your family. Like if you're like me, I come from a really close-knit family, so I mean I would see my family so I would see my family like every weekend. So you know that has to be adjusted once you get married because your spouse now is your main priority. So you want to just take that into consideration when you're evaluating how much time you should spend with your in-laws.
Now, when you twice you've said this now about talking about it. What talking about it means is literally talking about it and being specific. Yeah. You can't just be like, hey, how do you feel about this? Okay. And then sit down and really talk about it. Now, if you're not talkative people, or if you have one spouse who is not as open, that can kind of be annoying challenging or painful or whatever. But it's a conversation that's best had. You have to be specific. You have to be open. You have to be honest. Say, listen, I love my family. I want to be married, but I still want to spend a lot of time with them, or whatever the case may be. You have to be specific. Don't just gloss over it and think, oh, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Because that can be a bone of contention for real.
Like I asked Joe, I said, well, actually, I told him, you know, I'm close with my family, and I'm gonna always see my family. So, how much time would you spend? Like, would you feel comfortable with me spending time with my family? And I also let him know. Well, actually, my aunt kind of helped me out in this area unknowingly. Whenever my family's in town, I don't know, I guess I'm laser focused on my family because now we all live in different areas. We used to all live in New York, but over the years we've kind of all spread out along the East Coast. So whenever I see my family, especially ones from New York, it's like, and I just want to be like all dated with them in their face. And so my aunt basically told Joe while we were dating, like, whenever my family is full with a whole bunch of women, so she told him whenever we are amongst our family members, especially the girls, we pretty much kind of like don't pay as much attention to our husbands. Don't take it personal.
Oh, her exact words, we ditch our husbands.
So that kind of helped him see, and it's again, like I said, it was while we were dating. So he could kind of get an idea of, okay, either I'm okay with that or I'm not. Well, fortunately, he's okay with that.
Well, see, the difference was when we were dating, our time was at a premium too. So I would come, like we would meet in Charlotte to see your family, but I'm also really coming there to see you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Meeting to see you. So now being married, you understand, you know, you have to be reasonable. You know, I spend all of my time with you. If you want to go and spend a week with your family without me, that's all good. You'll be back. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so it's not like I'm losing you to them. It's not like it's a battle. You know what I mean? We can all be happy. You know, we all get what we want. It's a perfect arrangement. Yeah, win-win. Yeah.
Okay, so the last question is, what should you do if problems arise? Now, this is an interesting one because if you're dealing with humans, which obviously we are, we're all imperfect, there's always bound to be some sort of issue or some sort of something. So, like, how do you handle it? How should you handle it?
Well, I would say this. You always want to, especially as newlyweds, you want to do this early. Build up each other's confidence in each other. And what I mean by that is, let's rely on each other more than we rely on our family, our former immediate family. Now we're each other's immediate family.
You should just respectfully but honestly state basically what the problem is or what it is that you didn't like, whether it be how it was said or what was said. Just talk it out. I don't see any point in talking to other people in the family, or just talk to your in-law and explain to them what you didn't like. Like I said, whether it be the words, the way they said it, whether you felt like it was disrespectful, what have you. And I think to an extent, if that doesn't work, sometimes it's up to the person whose parents it is to talk to their parents and basically let them know, like, hey, I love you guys, but what you did or what happened was not okay. And I think it should be the child who says it, because as much as your parents may love their son-in-law or their daughter-in-law, ultimately they're still their child, and they're gonna always love you first and love you more. So I think sometimes it should come from, depending upon what it is and how serious it gets, it should come from the child themselves.
Yeah, the person who has the problem. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And like we said before, all of these points are, you can take them and apply them as it best suits your marriage, because not every marriage is the same. Not every family dynamic is the same. You know, so it's about what best works for you. But
and these are just some questions to help you start deciding, like, okay, so if you're in the dating phase, these are some questions that you could ask your boyfriend or girlfriend to see if you guys are on the same page. If you guys are newlyweds or engaged, still questions you can ask. And it's just something to get your mind thinking. When life happens to us all, if this and that happens, what would I do? It's good to sometimes be prepared for these things, because they can happen. You will have in-laws. Everyone is raised differently. Everyone has different dynamics with their family. So there's some things to think about.
Yeah, true. So hopefully y'all found this helpful, or at least enjoyable. And if you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. That's what it is. I get it right.
Comment down below. Let us Let us know if you have any questions regarding in-laws, or if there's any topic that you guys would like us to talk about next. And see you guys soon.
All right, y'all enjoy.